Waiver-Wire Monday special has arrived. It's time to buckle down and make sure your fantasy team is ready to get this money. And on today's episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Steele and I are not only going to break down all of the top waiver-wire ads that you need to be considering, we're going to take a look at all of the top news from around the NHL over the weekend. Toews, Werenski, Auston Matthews doing special things. Thank you for joining us. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hockey heads, fantasy fanatics, and degenerate gamblers, welcome back to your source for daily information. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, and thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Steele, oh boy, this weekend was a joy to take in. I am so fired up that hockey is back. This is now when you and I dig into the trenches. Waiver Wire Mondays, so important to kick off the season. You and I have stressed. You don't go to the waiver wire unless you maybe really need it. Waiver wire is your friend. So we're here to break down some really good targets for your team. Maybe you have some injuries already. Victor Arvidsson might be headed to the IR for a long time. You're going to need to fill these holes, but we're also taking a look at some of the big news from around the league. We haven't talked about this Devon Toews extension. I'm really liking it, Steele. You know how I feel about the blue line in Colorado. Werenski, Hathaway, that hit. I know I need your take on that. There's been some spice on the internet about that take. And of course, number 34, already blowing the doors off the league 2 games in. Steele, you and I are drinking the Kool-Aid, baby, and we're not even talking about big-time bets, which, of course, we'll have all of our favorite Monday bets broken down at the end of the episode. Steele, we need all of the minutes, so I'm throwing it right to you. Wherever you want to start, I'm ready to go, but I cannot wait to talk about 34, which I know we'll get to as well.
That's going to be a long conversation. We'll get to that eventually, but we got to start with Colorado Avalanche and Devon Toews signing a 7-year, $50.75 million contract. And of course, when you're signing, a defenseman who's at his age, he's going to be 30 years old soon, to a long-term contract. There are some questions about what it's going to look like down the road. Are there going to be some risks? And of course, there are with a contract of this length, with an older defenseman, an older player in the league. But I don't think there's any risks whatsoever with this contract when it comes to Devon Toews. He deserves every single penny of this contract that is coming towards him. He's been an absolute stud since coming to Colorado, was an absolute stud in his first 2 seasons in the NHL with the New York Islanders. He's so sound and calm defensively. He doesn't panic. He makes the smart plays. He does everything with his teammates, and he makes them better as well. 50-plus points the last couple of years. He's never been in the negatives for the plus-minus category, which tells you a lot about how his defensive game is. Good and look point. At the last 2 seasons alone, 39 in the plus-minus category and 50-plus in the minus category as well a couple seasons ago. The blocks, when we're talking about fantasy-wise, the blocks, the hits, they're okay. The shots are decent. Again, this is a defenseman, and for talking fantasy-wise, he's not going to be at the top of your list. He's not going to be at the top of your radar because those peripherals are a little bit lower than you would like to see, but he does bring the offensive production. He gets secondary assists all the time, and again, his overall defensive game is one of the best in the leagues.
He is so solid all around, and honestly, one of the most underrated rear guards in the NHL over the last number of years, and very good on you for bringing up the fact. And I know people have a lot to say about plus minus, and I know today everyone is very hyper-focused on analytics, and I respect that. And I will just say this. When you are playing in today's NHL, when scores get run up, I know he's been on the Colorado Avalanche, plus minus can be used with the right angle to show you that a player, not talking about fantasy, maybe even just talking about quality on ice, Steele, this guy can get it done. And let's not forget, 11th in Norris voting 3 years ago. 8th in Norris voting 2 years ago. And last season, 14th in Norris voting. This guy's getting some look as the best defenseman in the league, Steele. We got to pay attention when the Colorado Avalanche are able to lock him up for a very fair price.
Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to bring it back to this point because you did make the fantasy point very nicely is you and I have talked a little bit about how we think Devon Toews, Cale Makar, Bowen Byram, Sam Girard, Jack Johnson, and Josh Manson are the best defensive unit in the NHL. And now they have a bunch of these pieces locked up. We also have talked about that the Colorado Avalanche are a very real Stanley Cup threat this season. But all I wanted to say is Devon Toews, solid across the board. If you have him on your fantasy team, you don't even need to worry about that guy very much when he's like on the ice. He just gets it done. He moves in silent. Steele. Where do you want to head next, though? Because we got to keep these topics short and tight. Werenski, this is where I know you're heated on this conversation. I'm going to turn it right over to you for this entire take because I know you were getting a little bit of heat online. And I think I actually, I got to back up my boy here, but I side with you here. And also, he didn't get suspended, did he? So there you go.
Yeah, I wouldn't say mad as just say, it's kind of laughable at this point, but obviously everyone's entitled to their opinions. Everyone has an opinion on something at all times. And for me, when someone sends a comment out and say, this is a vicious hit, this is a dirty player, this is this is intent to injure, that's where I sort of draw the line because this is a guy, again, he's only been suspended once in 8 years, and that was for spitting. Obviously a dirty move in itself on spitting in someone's face, but it wasn't an actual physical play where he got suspended for. He spit in someone's face, which again is just absolutely disgusting behavior from Garnett Hathaway. But this is the first game of the season. Philadelphia Flyers against the Columbus Blue Jackets. He is not going out there trying to injure guys. That is not his play style. He's a physical player. He likes to finish his checks. And again, when I look at the replay of what happened, clearly, when people are saying that he extended his knee out, he extended it out because he's skating forwards. When people talk about knee on knees, again, I said this to you, 99.9% of the time, when someone extends their knee out or their leg out, it's always horizontally. It's always to the side of their body.
Not to the front of their body.
Not to the front of their body. Werenski is behind the net. He's looking to move the puck. He sees Hathaway coming towards him. And only his upper half, his upper body is able to slip out of the way, which Hathaway was leaning with his right shoulder. And again, it's just one of those plays where your knees hit each other and it just tweaks it in a certain way. If this was vicious, Werenski would probably be out for over a month, but he's out week to week right now. And again, you don't want to see a player get injured.
Never.
And it's clearly a knee on knee. It is a penalty. But when someone says it's intent to injure, that's where I kind of draw the line because this is the first game of the NHL season. He's not going out there to injure anybody. He's just trying to finish his check.
And two things. The spitting incident was 8 seasons removed. He was 22 years old in the NHL. And basically, I don't know what season that was, but it may have been his first or second in the NHL. So maybe we give the kid a little bit of credit. Is spitting something you ever want to see? No. Is that something that's absolutely disrespectful? Yes, but that doesn't mean he's a dirty player. And I think also what I want to bring this around to, aside from the points that you said, is it was a little bit of a tough angle to watch the play break down from as well, which I think, aside from everything we just mentioned, remember that. And remember also, people are very hypersensitive about Werenski, especially fantasy owners, which I know a lot of the people in the conversation you were having on Twitter were. This is his first game back since his injury, right? First game since suffering a season-ending shoulder injury. So this is also sensitive for fantasy owners. So I get it all. Was the NHL Department of Player Safety off on a lot of things over the last decade? 100%. I think they got this one spot on right. Steele, should we head to break, or do we break down the Matty thing quick, or do that after break?
We got to talk about Matthews for an extended period of time, so we're going to have to do that after break.
Giddy up because Auston Matthews is lighting the league afire. And I'll just drop this tidbit right now. My man's on an 82-game pace for 246 goals. So pay attention. And we also need to pay attention to today's episode being brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. A player on your favorite team scores a hattie. Your favorite team wins the Stanley Cup. And if you want to win 100 times your money, you're playing daily fantasy on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for this season, but to have a chance at winning big, you need to play daily fantasy on Sleeper. As the official fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, of course. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey content and contests. Use promo code Locked On NHL and you'll get $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your favorite team from all 4 major sports leagues, including the NCAA, your team every single day. And our team, Flip, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Auston
Good
Matthews,
segue. Good segue, Steele.
Absolute stud in the first 2 games. Leafs have won their opening 2 games to start the season. They are 2-0-0, but Auston Matthews is the headline of both those winners. Hat-trick in game 1 against Montreal.
Not bad.
Hat-trick in game 2 against the Minnesota Wild. You know, I was at the game.
Shout out to you. You didn't even give me the heads up there. Was that a last minute game time app special maybe?
No, that was a sweet gift from my father, who's away right now. So he dropped the tickets to me last minute, but absolutely.
Next time I best be getting an invite, fam. I'm only an hour away.
You'll be getting the invite next time. It was last minute. You weren't going to be able to make it, an hour before.
Hey, listen, respect. Also, I was about 8 rum and cokes deep at a wedding, but respect. Go ahead.
But a great game to go to nonetheless. Both my favorite teams, Minnesota Wild, Toronto Maple Leafs, getting after it in the second game to start the season. But Matthews, again, back-to-back hat tricks. Just what an absolute treat. And I know you want to talk about this. I'll go after you because you're about to light the lamp with how great Auston Matthews is. Let's start off with you. What have you liked so far from Matthews, obviously scoring 6 goals?
What I like the most is, Steele, he's scoring when his team needs him the most, responding. You and I can sit here and get all kinds of hyped up. They almost blew it against Montreal. 34 comes in to save the day. Minnesota got theirs and made the game close at 4-3. And then the boys put the pedal down here and they got it done. So we can talk about how the rest of the team, of course, needs to get it together. We're not planning parades here. We're not hanging Stanley Cup rings on these guys' fingers. But what we need to be doing is backing up what you and I have both been saying now for weeks about number 34. This team's success runs through him. And I think he's now showing. And also, I don't know if you saw all the quotes that were coming out from Mark Zeisberger, did a piece on him from The Sun. This guy loves Toronto.
Yeah.
He feels at home here. All the rumors about him moving south were all BS. And he has put those to rest here. And I'm really, really excited because also, and I just wanted to bring up the numbers, aside from this one, Steele, Toronto Maple Leaf superstar became the 5th player in NHL history to open the season in back-to-back Hatties. The only other guy since 1918 who's done that, Steele, a little buddy named somebody called Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah.
So let's give our boy, a little respect here. And let's also remember he's got 13 shots on net. He's got 6 block shots. He's got 5 hits. He's got 4 goals on the even strength. He's got 2 on the power play. And he's carrying his team already, which he needs to do. That's what I got to say. What's your take on this?
That $13.5 million contract ain't looking too bad right now, is it out there, boys? It's phenomenal. We are witnessing the best goal scorer in the NHL right now. It's been Alex Ovechkin for a very, very, very long time in the NHL throughout his incredible career. But Auston Matthews has now solidified himself as the best scorer. And for me, what I'm seeing from him is the wide variety of tricks in his arsenal. He's not just scoring the same goal over and over again like Alex Ovechkin has done over his career, or from the
nothing wrong with that either.
Nothing wrong with it because it's still one of the best goal scorers, if not the best goal scorer, who's still fighting for that top spot with Wayne Gretzky. But nevertheless, Auston Matthews, what he's able to do, if you look at all 3 goals against the Minnesota Wild, first goal in the slot from Mitch Marner, rips it low blocker side. Yep. Second goal, he did it in back-to-back games where he's got no angle towards the net, but he's just throwing it there hoping for, whether it's he's looking for a slap pass or if he's just throwing it on net. You never know
Good
what's
players
gonna
get
hit.
lucky, Steele.
Good players get lucky, but he's intentionally throwing the puck towards and finding those small areas. That's number 2. And number 3, the wraparound behind the net, sliding it to far post and getting it in. So all 3 goals are different. All 3 goals are beautiful. And he did that same thing in game 1 against the Montreal. So that's what I'm loving right now is the variety of attacks in his arsenal to scoring these goals. Again, help from his teammates, Mitch Marner on both of those 2 goals as well.
Yes.
William Nylander on the second one. But again, we are witnessing one of the best goal scorers, if not the best goal scorer in the NHL right now. And I think by the end of his career, he could most likely be top 5 goal scorers in the NHL.
What I'm seeing, what I like the most about him, Steele, honestly, is we know he starts seasons on offensive heaters. And we know he can be at times. Last year especially, he really went hot and cold. So what I think I need to really see from him, tease to bets, because I'm going to talk about him a little bit more, is I want him to start and stay hot.
Yeah.
Good players don't go many nights without points. Connor McDavid. I'm not saying I'm comparing overall point production from McDavid to Matthews, but his importance to his team, his offensive ability, and his pure goal-scoring talent is McDavid level. That's a whole other conversation. We're not getting there. But why don't we head over to our waiver wire conversation? And unless you have a problem with it, I'll hit you with one of my favorite targets headed into this week. You good with this?
Start us off, baby.
5'11", mini dynamo, Evan Rodrigues is getting an awesome look with the Florida Panthers. And for some reason, Steele, and I have the numbers ready, baby, because I did my research for this one. Not only on Yahoo is he center left wing eligible, he's out there and he's only owned in 12% of Yahoo leagues and 3.7 on ESPN. That doesn't make any sense. And he just went off over the weekend, Steele. Now he's got 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points, 9 shots on net. And I think his offensive ability has been very underrated. And even if you're not buying into him overall, right now, he's getting to play with Barkov and Verhaeghe. And you got to be oh, by the way, he's on the number 1 power play as well.
Yeah.
You got to be going out there and having a look at Evan Rodrigues right now.
This is actually perfect that you bring him up because someone left a comment on the YouTube channel. What do you think about Evan Rodrigues in Florida? And that answers it right there perfectly. He's on the top line with Barkov and Verhaeghe. He's getting good looks on the power play. And again, when Sam Bennett comes back from injury, they get some of their players back from injury.
It'd be different.
The lines could be shuffled around. But as of right now, if Evan Rodrigues is on the waiver wire, or he's on your team, don't drop him or go pick him up because he's going to be getting some great looks in Florida. Florida is one of those teams, again, that was just really dominating the offensive zone last year. They're not fully healthy right now, but when they are, things will be that lamp will be lit many, many, many times. I'm starting off with Ryan Hartman of the Minnesota Wild, owned at 30% right now on Yahoo. I talked about him a little bit before.
Yeah.
2 games in the NHL this season. He's got 1 goal, 5 shots on net, 4 hits, 3 blocks. He does a little bit of everything. And again, he's going to be getting a ton of looks on that top line with Kaprizov and Zuccarello. He's an absolute magnet to the puck. Wherever the puck goes, he follows it. He's physical. He might not be the biggest player out there, but he parks his butt in front of the net. He gets those rebounds. He's a physical player. And he likes getting under the skin. So he's going to be getting those penalty minutes as well. He hasn't been fully healthy over the last couple of last season. He had 37 points in 59 games. The peripherals were obviously down because he missed some time with injury. But if he can stay fully healthy this entire season playing with Kaprizov and Zuccarello, the production, the offensive ability is bound to happen because of who he's playing with. And again, those peripherals will continue to climb up the board too as well. Because looking at the year prior, full 82-game season, had 240 shots, 72 hits, and 48 blocks with 95 penalty minutes. Maybe get those penalty minutes a little bit down so you're not costing your team. But Ryan Hartman is one of those guys who's going to be getting a ton of looks on the top line as well.
Combinations, deployment, power play time. These are the angles Steele and I are always going to be covering because, Yeah, week to week opportunities are going to shift. And I think you will come back after break with a couple more of our waiver wire angles. And we'll keep bets today very, very short and sweet, people. By the way, shout out to everyone for continuing to support. Steele's got us on a plug in a second. But I'm with you on this take. And I think you and I were very clear a couple of weeks ago. I forget what episode it was. Waiver wire is your friend for
Yeah.
sure. But also remember that unless a guy is injured and you know he's going to be out a bunch of weeks, maybe just also don't rush right away and have a look at your team. Remember, where did you draft them? Are you a keeper dynasty? What do you have invested in them? These all play into your waiver wire moves. So I just wanted to get that off the chest, Steele, before I get a couple more of our guys off very quickly right after the break.
Few more waiver wire targets and, of course, big time bets to finish this episode off. But this episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all that love and support you show us. Make sure you continue hitting that subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support. And quickly, before I go off to my next player on the waiver wire target, I just want to mention Minnesota Wild's weekly schedule for this upcoming week. They face the Montreal Canadiens, the LA Kings, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So they have 3 games, 2 of which could be some barn burners against the Montreal Canadiens and Columbus Blue Jackets. So keep that in mind. Again, check the weekly schedule for who you're picking up, because some guys might be only playing 2 times while others might be playing 4 times. That goes to my second player right here, Ryan Donato of the Chicago Blackhawks. 5% owned right now. He's got 2 points in 3 games, 8 shots, 2 hits. And I've been very impressed with how he's keeping up with Bedard. You know, it's obviously tough to keep up with a player of that caliber, but so far he's done an absolutely a great job keeping up with him, making plays for him as well, and doing all of the little things right in the offensive and defensive zone. They also, Chicago Blackhawks also have 3 games this week. It's going to be a tough one. Toronto Maple Leafs, Colorado Avalanche, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So 3 games this week, but he's playing with Connor Bedard, so you know some offense is going to come.
You have to look at Ryan Donato, most definitely. That's one of those, I think people have been talking about it all week. Taylor Hall is also going to be out for at least a week or 2. Until he comes back, I think Donato by default is worth a look because of how confident Bedard has looked. And is he doing crazy offensive things? No, but he's steady producing already. I think 1 goal, 2 assists. He's looking very comfortable. He has been getting his shots off. This kid is for real. I think also, Steele, we have to remember, again, percentage-wise, Donato's going to be out there, but don't stick to him if he starts to fade. Right now, it's looking like a good ad. Week to week, you have to be all over your teams. Don't just think Ryan Donato, because it works right now, means he's on your squad all year. That's another one of those things that I just wanted to throw out there. And now, Chandler, Stephenson, Steele, 42% owned in Yahoo, 63 on ESPN. So he might be a little bit more of a tricky ad. The Vegas Golden Knights play 3 times this week, but Chandler Stephenson, while I'm struggling to pull up his tab here, since coming over to the Vegas Golden Knights, Steele, in 279 games, and I know his first couple of years in Washington didn't exactly blow the doors off of anybody, 279 games, the man has almost 200 points. He has been solid producing, and in 3 games so far, 2 goals, 3 assists. More importantly, how about almost 18 minutes a night in ice time, forming nice chemistry with Mark Stone? And let me pull this up. Mark Stone, Stephenson, Marchessault, Eichel, and Theodore, on that top power play in Vegas. I want me a
Dangerous.
piece of Chandler Stephenson, and I don't mean for just this week. He is going to be the number 2 center. That's where I was talking about Donato versus some of these other more established pieces. That was the point I'm trying to make as my voice goes once again. Chandler Stephenson on my radar, and a good offensive piece already performing in Vegas.
Absolute stud last year for the Vegas Golden Knights in the playoffs, and he's been so great for them the last couple of seasons as well. My last waiver wire target before we move over to big time bets, it's Daniel Sprong of the Detroit Red Wings. Owned at 5% right now. I think this player goes overlooked for the entire season, which he has gone overlooked even last year with Seattle. 2 goals, 8 shots in the first 2 games. Had a career high 46 points last year in Seattle, and he only played 66 games. So that's fairly impressive for a guy who's only 26 years old and actually hasn't even yet to play a full season in the NHL. So 46 points in 66 games. Keep that in mind. I think he's going to be a great addition to the depth chart for the Detroit Red Wings. You know, they might struggle defensively at some times, but offensively, I think they're going to get it done. 25 plus goals, 170 plus shots is my prediction for Daniel Sprong this upcoming year.
I like it.
Has to stay healthy, of course. Struggled with that last year. But again, check the weekly schedule because Detroit has 4 games this upcoming week. Columbus Blue Jackets, Pittsburgh Penguins, Ottawa Senators, and the Calgary Flames. All interesting matchups for the Detroit Red Wings. And again, Daniel Sprong is one of those guys that I'm sort of just like, I don't want it to happen, but if someone gets injured on my team, Daniel Sprong's the next guy in line. So I've got him queued up, ready to go.
Yeah, he was a big piece of that bottom 6 in Seattle last year. Detroit looked really good the other night. Dylan Larkin, man, that was one of the takeaways that I was watching hockey. I just like kind of thinking about things that maybe make an impact, Steele. Dylan Larkin can skate. My goodness. I think keep your eyes on Detroit. Very quickly, I'm going to go off quick here. Andrew Mangiapane has 2 goals and 2 assists. A couple of years ago, we were ready to put a really serious moniker on this kid. 35 goals in the NHL at 25 years old is something to pay attention to. Last year, disappointing. This year, playing on the top line with Lindholm and Huberdeau. Have a look at Mangiapane. The Flames have 4 games this week as well. And lastly, you know I got to come with that keeper dynasty angle, Steele. Zach Benson on the Buffalo Sabres. Again, angles. Am I putting Zach Benson on my roster for the whole year? No, because likely he's playing his 10 games and he's getting sent down because he's 18 years old. But I'll tell you this, if he keeps scoring points, he's going to be back up in the NHL very, very soon. And I'll hit you with this. Zach Benson in the WAHL last year, amongst draft-eligible forwards, 2nd in points, behind only someone named Connor Bedard. So maybe we should be paying a little bit more attention to Mr. Zach Benson. Keeper Dynasty. Keeper Dynasty. Go out there and add Zach Benson for sure. And over the next week or 2, Zach Benson in most year-to-year leagues as well, Steele. Take us to bets, baby. I want to hear what you're going with.
The one thing about Zach Benson that I've noticed in the first 2 games as well is he looks like a little bit of an antagonizer. He looks to get under people's skins, and
he's 5'9",
and he skates away from it too. Like he does something and then just like, oh, I did nothing. I'm gonna skate
5'9". Oh, hey, 13th overall. That was a slip. That was a slip. And you and I love Kevin Adams in Buffalo. Another feather in his cap.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to Kevin Adams and the organization for Buffalo from what they've done over the last couple of years. Big time bets, though. Baby. I'm just gonna rattle all 3 of them off. I'm not gonna go into depth with them. First pick, Red Wings money line on the road against the Blue Jackets.
I like it.
Second pick, Maple Leafs puck line -1.5 against the Chicago Blackhawks. Have no faith in Peter Mrazek or Arvid Soderblom, and Auston Matthews is just doing fantastic things right now. And actually, I haven't chosen the lock of the night, but this is my 3rd pick. Rangers money line against the Arizona Coyotes as well. Those are 3 of my picks. Absolutely like them for the 5-game board on Monday.
Very quickly, Florida heads into New Jersey, Steele. This smells like an over, and looking at the last couple of matchups, 7 of the last 10 between these 2 clubs, over the number. So hit me with the over in this one, and then my lock of the night and my 2nd pick come from, guess where? Toronto at home against Chicago. This club is feeling it, and they have a lot to prove. We're 2 games in, and I'm not planning parades, and I'm not hanging banners, but I am ready to say this Leafs team is not taken any prisoners this year. It's straight for the throat, baby. So give me Leafs on the puck line to dust aside a Chicago team that has already started out on the road, and that's going to catch up to them quick. Lock of the night, number 34, baby.
Gotta do it.
Let me just very quickly, in his career against Chicago, I have it right here. In 12 games, 8 goals, 12 assists for 20 points. Give me over 1.5. Auston Matthews, anytime points. I think he starts to distribute. I think now that he's comfortable and he's set the goal scoring mark, he's going to start to distribute goal, assist, over 1.5. That's my lock of the night for points for Matthews.
You might as well be betting Auston Matthews anytime goal every single game, just like I'm betting Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown, because that guy's just been getting it done every single game for the 49ers, just like Matthews getting it done for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find all of our episodes. Hit the subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. DM us over Twitter if you have any questions. Leave comments on the YouTube channel. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Go Bills.